Today we tried to bring together the more or less interdisciplinary works, of course related to house and home theme in terms of theory of architecture, but that's the unofficial theme of the Friday presentations. In the first session we have again 4 presentations. The first one is Advertisement, Fashion and Home by Philippa Tumubweinee and Hendricks. The second presentation is going to be a study of women's shelters, places of transcendental homelessness and identity by Lori Brown and Özlem Erdoğan, the Arachtheo. And the third presentation is going to be Medical Lessons in Modern Domesticity, the Greek Case, by Alexandra Chronaki. And the last presentation of the first session is going to be The Radiant Beauty by Mark Taylor. So welcome again.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the organizers of the conference. I would also like to, before I start my paper, thank City Power South Africa for initiating this project. I'd like to thank all the professionals, the consultants, the contractors, and all the suppliers. The project I'm going to present was 100% free. Everything from the ties on the reinforcement to the overtly fancy light-sensitive blinds was supplied 100% free. Thank you. My name's Philippa. Denver is not here, unfortunately, and I'll be presenting the E-Squared House, the fashion of an energy-efficient home. This should be on a timer. I'm just sort of going to talk at you, unfortunately. I'm horribly frightened.
Can you tell us a little bit about where you're from?
I'm from South Africa. I'm an architect, and I lecture at the University of the Free State in Bloemfontein, and I run a small design studio, and this is sort of part of the work that we do in that design studio. Okay. In 2001, City Power, a division of Eskom South Africa, which is the largest supplier of electrical energy in South Africa, in a move to conserve and save on electricity, initiated the idea of an energy-efficient show house, the E-Squared House. Something's supposed to be happening, but it isn't. Okay. The E-Squared House as an image was to represent through architecture the idea of energy efficiency within a home. The E-Squared House, located in Innisfree Park, a public park in the new central business district of Johannesburg, Sandton, is clearly visible from the M1 arterial motorway in Johannesburg. This is the main motorway in Johannesburg. The E-Squared House as a billboard along this motorway promotes the advertisement of technology and technological processes that minimize the use of energy within a home. In South Africa, the issue of energy efficiency is just coming to the forefront, and the electrical suppliers, City Power, are trying to get people to buy into the various technologies that are available in South Africa. So that's Innisfree Park, M1 motorway, Greystone Drive, which would be considered Fifth Avenue without the pedestrians. So the E-Squared House is basically a billboard. The E-Squared House, using a fashion-based approach as a social cultural phenomena to advertise experimentation with technology, materiality and manufacturing, becomes the stage onto which creative practice can express an alternate definition of the home. Fashion culture has 4 aspects that define it: a communication process, the nature of the communication process, the relations between the communicator and the audience, and the distinction between the communicator and the message. The E-Squared House, as a fashionable image through advertisement, promotes technology and technological processes as drivers of energy efficiency within a home. The experience of the advertisement develops further, an idea or an ideal that deepens and influences an imagined possibility of how one fits with who they are or would like to be and become, and what they would like to consume. Fashion is universal in contemporary Western society, but simultaneously it is challenging to confine it to one neat definition or context. Barnard, in his fashion theory, a reader argues that fashion is a social and cultural phenomenon, which mediates between the individual and the collective, making it a medium that can be used as a mode of cultural consumption and production. The E-squared house, presented as a stage, suggests the idea that through technology and technological processes, energy efficiency within a home is enabled, finds itself uniquely dependent on advertising. This promotes an experiential quality of home as a social cultural phenomena, a spectacle, dependent on the play of imagination and possibility. Through the persuasive construction of this image, the idea of home is presented as a fashionable, intelligent, and responsive apparel by means of its aesthetic location and function. The E-squared house thus fashions the idea of energy efficiency within a home by presenting itself as an advertisement for technology and technological processes. I'm just going to run through a series of slides of the kind of technology that was used to construct this home, which actually is going to be inhabited by 4 people for a period of 2 months, so that we can conduct experiments as to how much energy they actually use within this pavilion and measure that and start to create some sort of benchmarks as to what can be used in a home. On the one side of the pavilion, you see the new CBD of Johannesburg, which is Sandton, and that is the skyline of it. It's still a bit unclear and undefined. That is the steel structure, that prefab steel structure that was supplied from ArcelorMittal. The interesting thing is that I think we got a little bit more publicity as the structure was going up in Johannesburg as opposed to now that the pavilion is finished. That is the Johannesburg CBD, the old Johannesburg CBD, with the turn of, with the changing of the country into a republic in 1994. There was a move of money and investment from what was the CBD to Sandton, which is now the new CBD. Some of the systems that I employed is the systems that are all available in South Africa. Lightweight steel, and it's a polystyrene basically by Saint-Gobain, which is one of the biggest suppliers of drywalling in the country. That's an interior shot of the house. We're all architects, this is a bit boring, but let's just get through it. Okay, that's what the house starts to look like as an image, and because of its location between Grayston and the M1, it locates itself along a series of billboards along the M1, which is quite interesting because to the north the billboards get more socially conscientious, so it's save energy, save the rhino, and as you go a little bit more south they get a little bit more saucy and inappropriate, with guest jeans, with inappropriate pictures, and mango and 9 West. It's a very interesting, so we place ourselves sort of in between what we should be thinking and actually what we want and do. That's the geothermal pipes that bring hot air up from the ground into the self-leveling, high-impact, quick-drying concrete. That's what the supplier says. I mean, with time, obviously, we have to test all of these technologies. So what happens is this geothermal pipe goes, this one went in 8 meters below natural ground level. It doesn't have to go in that deep. It could go in about 20 meters, 10 to 20 meters. And the heat from the Earth's crust is used to maintain a natural comfort level in the building. Those are the PEX pipes that, by use of a very, very expensive little piece of equipment, which is some sort of transformer, maintains the temperature through from the Earth crust, and that temperature is used to heat up water that runs through these pipes that then helps to maintain the temperature in the house. We have 15 solar geysers on top of the pavilion, and the interesting thing is that this is probably the most inefficient technological process we have employed in this pavilion. 15 solar geysers. The best they can do is just run the plugs. That's all 15, not geysers, solar panels. They just run the plugs, nothing else. The water is heated by the PEX pipes. The electricity is taken off the grid. The 15 solar panels just can run plugs. I mean, it's quite incredible how much they cost and what they can actually do in a house. That's a shot of the building. I want that. Let's get, okay. On the bottom level, the lower level, which is the private sleeping area, we haven't gone for the polycarbonate. Obviously, it's a new material on the market. We're not sure how it would work in case there was a fire or for safety. So what we've gone is for pressed chipboard as cladding, and this has then been painted. Plascon supplied the paint. That's the concrete. That's the sort of new caviar in concrete. That's the building starting to come together. I quite like this image because all the consultants and suppliers and contractors were giving of their time and materials for free. The window suppliers, Rehau, got very excited about this project and engaged in window design. After a while, we sort of caved in, but I thought it came out quite well. I mean, the gentleman from Rehau he was very excited about this. I've never seen a window supplier design windows. So these are basically polycarbonate window frames, double glazed, and the very, very expensive light automated blinds are placed on the inside of that. That's a shot of the house from Greyston. That's as you turn off Greyston to the highway. That's just a drawing of where we located the building on the site. It's located on a berm for better visibility in Innisfree Park. What is also interesting, I probably should mention it, is that Innisfree Park, sitting in what is now the new money or the new business district, also has on the southern side of it a concentration of probably the worst form of informal settlements. I mean, if informal settlements happen on a sprait, that would be a small stream bank which has dried up over time. And it's quite interesting the difference or the juxtapositioning of what is an extremely expensive piece of architecture that is placed north of a very unfortunate, informal, marginalized community. That's the house. You come in on the upper level, and that's the public area of the house. There's an ablution, there's a dining room and a kitchen, and stairs that go up to the top. It's the kitchen, dining room, living area. So this would be where the public would have the tours, and there'll be exhibitions, and people could interview the inhabitants of the house. And then on the lower level, we have two sleeping booths that can house 2 people each, so 4 people can live in here. And then you have your services on the sort of western side of the building. And that's the solar panels, and in true Santon style, we have a putt-putt course, mini golf course on the top. I mean, if you're in Santon, you've got to sort of keep up with your neighbors, and we thought that that would sort of put us into the context of it quite well. That's just some drawings of the building. These are all the suppliers, and I thought it would be, it's only with their support and generosity that this project could actually have materialized. So the idea is basically, how do you take that, which is a whole, and the logos truly are representative of the companies, how do you take that and how do you make that fashionable, and how do you allow for some level of imagination or deep inclination within a general population to consume an image? And the logos will get more and more interesting, and they really are representative of the kind of the processes that are required for this. And how do you turn that into an image that then starts to do something that has a little bit more, I'm going to use slightly pedestrian words, pizzazz, and a little bit more interesting. How do you get that billboard to look like 9 West or Mango or Guess Jeans on the same strip of highway? And this is how we thought we would do it. So that's the E-squared house and the fashionable and energy efficient home. Thank you.
So, good morning from me also. My name is Alexandra Chronaki. I come from Greece. And my contribution today is a part of my PhD research, currently in process in the School of Architecture in Athens. My paper looks back at the architectural tradition of the modern domestic space, aiming to reveal some of the conditions that influenced the production of a new knowledge, referring to dwelling, which resulted in the transformation of the domestic domain using as case study the Greek domestic architecture as it emerged in the newly established Greek state. That is roughly from 1830 up to the first decades of the 20th century, the period which is generally thought to be associated with the concept of modernization, promoting those spatial changes which resulted in the establishment of a domestic model which remains similar since nowadays. Realizing the structural complexity of such an issue, we shall emphasize on the medical impacts on the transformation of the domestic space, pointing at the crucial cultural role that medicine plays in the context of a wider policy against the fatal diseases which plague the European cities of the time. We'll focus on Athens, the capital of the Greek state, as the region with the most intense urbanization, emphasizing on the public discussion that took place among different actors of the scientific ideas of the country, and particularly the doctors, the hygienists, and architects. Through that dialogue, public health emerged as the major social priority, which would constitute the lever for the alteration of people's views and the modernization of their way of inhabitation. Referring either to the symbolic or the pragmatic field, there is a notion that was widely used to describe what threatened the health of both the social and the physical body, and that is dirt. The idea that dirt should be banished from the body and the house as a threat to the inhabitants' health is a relatively recent one. It's directly related with the new role that hygiene gained at the end of the 19th century as a result of the new scientific knowledge, such as the germ theory. In its interrelated and overlapping meanings, hygiene contributed in the alteration of the ways in which the human body was thought about, described, and represented. Founded on the persuasion that illness is not a non-reversible fact, as it can be prevented through the use of certain hygienic rules. Meanwhile, new spatial parameters were set in order to preserve and promote health, which were tightly associated with the idea of cleanliness. In the newly established Greek state, the sanitary conditions were of a very low level and the public sanitary infrastructure were almost absent. Filth and stench overwhelmed the public and individual spaces due to the inefficiency of water provided to water tanks, domestic water tanks, and the lack of a central sewerage system. It's characteristic that the liquid and solid domestic waste used to be gathered in individual improper cesspools or to be thrown directly on the ground surface stimulate aesthetic problems and, above all, the outburst of pulmonic and enteric epidemics. The Athenian press protested repeatedly for that filthy condition, and medical publications pointed out the low standards of personal hygiene, emphasizing on the urgent necessity for cleanliness for the elimination of the disease and the social progress. The country should apply a new sanitary policy by improving its institutional legislation and applying a precautionary hygiene based on the use of new technology. However, aside from the sanitary laws which weren't applied even if they existed, the most important issue was the challenging of the main origin of the dirt, which was people's ignorance of how to protect their health. Due to the absence of governmental provision, individual initiatives assume the sanitary education of people, with doctors at first and later the engineers. The central axis of their action seems to be the distribution of contemporary European scientific and technological developments and the transfer of Western models of living in Greece in order to set up public health which would demonstrate the civilization and modernization of the new state. Based on relative European essays, the first books addressed mainly the issue of personal hygiene and secondly that of domestic cleanliness. They are simplified texts which provide practical health protecting advice that can be used as a daily consultant for the family. For example, one of the first essays, entitled Hygienic Commands for the Use of Greek People, published in Paris in 1829 by Dr. Karatheodoris, presents briefly the hygienic conditions with regard to the atmospheric air, the nourishment, the garment, the physical exercise of the body, the sleep, the working conditions, etc. Regarding the cleanliness of the body, the author promotes the practice of clear underwear instead of the bath, claiming that the bath once a month is adequate to keep the body clean, while a more often use of the bath could be harmful. The health protective role of the bath is being presented for the first time in Greece in the essay about baths published in 1859 by Dr. Pirlas. The book is totally dedicated to the different kinds of baths, domestic, sea baths, spa, steam baths, etc., describing in detail their various impacts on the human organism and their various purposes, to eliminate the bodily impurities, to strengthen the organism, for relaxation, as a treatment for sharp illness, or to release from pain. Yet, the bath as a habitual daily practice was adopted by the Greek society extremely slowly. During the last 3 decades of the 19th century, under the influence of the microbiological theories, the publication of hygienic essays was notably increased, providing the key value that hygiene gained for the individual and social life. In particular, the promotion of personal hygiene is common in those various essays and consists of healthy nutrition providing the clearance of the blood, baths for body cleaning, sun and air bathing emphasizing on the approved efficacy on tuberculosis, physical exercise giving advantages to swimming and modern sports, house and garment cleaning. The personal compliance with the cleanliness norms is presented in the publications of the time both as a moral duty to the society and as a necessary precondition for social incorporation. Cleanliness still at that period represents a social and class quality attached to those of wealth and decency, while for the lower social classes, the health and the cleanliness is the evidence of their morality and dignity. The dominant idea that still correlates cleanliness with the ethics is that an attribute of the body could be transformed in a virtue of the spirit. It is a discipline to the bodily techniques which produces automations altering the individual's soul mainly through the innervation of unconscious mechanisms such as guilt, consciousness, and decency, which gained strength during modernity. The training to these bodily techniques becomes the main responsibility of the family, which has been organized gradually from the mid of the 19th century in a primary institution of medicalization, as Ms. Sorel Foucault has demonstrated. In that context, the role of the family is dual: to produce proper people for the social body and to constitute the core of a healthy society. The body of the child and the mother are represented as a main factor of the national development, being the base of the social well-being. That is, the human body was being used as a metaphor for the national body, keeping up the increased interest for the health of the family as a society's miniature, with a national prospect for the formation of a healthy state. As a result, the house becomes of primary concern of the medical references in an effort to formulate a proper special model able to teach the new way of living while guaranteeing the personal and social health. Through the new findings, correlating the special conditions with the growth of the disease, the idea that the space could play a dominant role in the struggle against morbidity was gradually cultivated. Thus, the hygiene of the habitation emerged conceptually by doctors aiming to research the components of a healthy domestic space and was translated into design terms by architects. The first references to the house hygiene are included in specialized chapters of hygiene essays. Yet the most complete book, entitled Hygiene of the Dwellings, was published in Athens in 1893 by Nikolaos Saliveros, gaining additional importance for this contribution. Its author is both hygienist and architect who had studied in Paris and Athens. Therefore, he combines the knowledge of the two scientific fields which contributed to the formation of the hygienic house, and is also aware of the pioneer practices in the domain of public sanitary currently in use in Europe. The book came out early enough considering the conditions in Greece at the time, and almost concurrent to the related international written work. Briefly, it is a complete guide of building rationalization through the argument of health. Progressively in its chapters, the sanitary dwelling is presented to be the result of a thorough and continuous cleaning, involving the appropriate use of the natural elements, the improvement of the climatic conditions using the proper technology, the functional arrangement of each room, and the daily cleaning. The main idea is that the house and the body have similar functions,